Hey guys, making a quick video on oil samples on the 7-ton. So, it holds 10 gallons of oil, and as you can see, well, I don't know how much oil you can see. Engine oil looks pretty decent. So before I change it, I want to send it out to the lab and see what kind of results I get. So on the passenger side by the steps, if you open this up, you get your two, ports to take oil samples from. Engine on the left, transmission on the right. So what I did was got the truck running, warmed it up, drove it around for a little bit, and then rather than just take the sample bottle and fill it up, I filled a old water bottle up. That way you can clear the line, because if you just take a sample of what's in this line, it's kind of a long way. You can see that hose right there on the top goes to the oil filter base. So rather than just take a sample of oil that's never seen the engine, I filled up this water bottle on each port. And so anyway, those are pretty simple. They're a -3, and they take like a 3/8 fitting to break this nut loose on the bottom. And these had never been pulled off. They still had that silicone kind of rubber on them. So I'll send these off. That through the magic of film, we'll clip to the lab results from these. But as you can see, this is transmission's pretty clear because it doesn't have any soot in it. Engine's, it's not bad. So anyway, we'll send these off to the lab and I'll post the results. Thanks. Okay, so we're back and I've got the oil samples back. It's about 3 weeks later. I haven't had a chance to film the results of the oil sample that I got back, but I had just rewatched the video that you just saw and realized that I might not have been making a lot of sense. So I'm going to kind of redo some of it. Basically what I was saying was on your test ports in here, sorry, the lighting's really bad. Let's say there's, 2 or 3 feet of line that goes into the oil filter adapter, like for the engine oil. If you just filled up this little 3-ounce bottle with, with just using the test port, you're probably going to see the oil that comes out has probably never been circulated through the engine. These ports aren't circulated; they're just deadheaded. So if you just filled that 3-ounce bottle, you're going to get a oil sample of oil that has never seen the engine. That was the reason for filling up the bottle, is to clear out that line. That way, you're not getting a test result back of basically fresh oil. And, the engine and transmission both hold about 10 gallons. So oil changes are kind of expensive and time consuming. So I wanted to see, kind of an insight into what the inside of the engine's doing. So, and part of the reason I did it, when I picked up this truck, this reservoir was empty and I filled it up. It holds a couple gallons, I bet. And I drove the truck around and parked it, and came back, and the reservoir was empty again. And so I thought, we could be losing a head gasket. I pulled the dipstick. The dipstick didn't look milky, but you never know. So it ended up, I was wrong. It is not using any coolant or antifreeze. It's just that the radiator must have been a couple gallons low. And so every time I would fill this, it would just backfeed into the engine and fill basically the whole cooling system. So good to know that we're not losing a head gasket or anything. It was low on coolant and had to be filled back up. So anyway, we got the results back of the oil sample, so we'll go look at that next. Okay, so we're back here on the test results. I hope the kind of the re-intro to that makes a little more sense. I just don't want to change the oil if it's brand new, and if it needs to be changed immediately, that'd be a good thing to know too. I'm getting ready to do a 200 or 300 mile trip, and I'll be towing about 35,000 pounds. So if engine or I'm gonna be beating on the truck pretty good. So if it needs to be changed, this is the first. I just got the truck and just want to know if I should change the oil or not. But I wanted to kind of compare Blackstone is an oil sample company with JG Lubricants. And this isn't a real in-depth comparison, I just wanted to kind of highlight some of it. So this sample from the Blackstone is for a Bobcat that I've got. And, you know, you tell them, they put in Kubota. It does not have a Kubota engine. It has a Deutz German engine, but it's a 1990 863 Bobcat. The oil change life, or the hours I have on this oil is about 65 hours, and I know that it's Delo 400 1540 diesel oil. The cost for this Blackstone analysis was $28, and then it's $10 more if you want the TBN tested, which is down here. TBN's the total base number. Blackstone's pretty cool. They send you for free. You just go on their website and order one of these. It's a test kit. It comes with a little card, info card you fill out. It comes with their little bottle, and it's all postage paid. And when you send this back, you either send them a check or a credit card number, and they'll charge you when they receive it. So there's no upfront cost. You just get this in the mail. And I really liked, this was my first test with Blackstone, so they added some really good commentary to it. They put on here, wear metals are very low. A lot of that's likely thanks to the short oil run of 65 hours. I only put about 65 hours a year on this Bobcat, and I've been changing the oil every year on it, and I thought it'd be a good time to test the oil. It's got like 5,500 hours on it, so it's getting kind of close to the end of its life. So they put wear metals are low. They do comment that their normal test is done at 210 hours. So all the other people that send in tests for that Kubota engine are about 210 hours. So they're kind of comparing my 65-hour oil life to a 210. They put in here, of course, low wear after a short run is not a bad thing. There's no mechanical problems in the works. The viscosity, and here's the interesting part. So I just tell them that it's Delo 1540, and they put the viscosity is quite thick for 1540. Didn't seem to hurt anything, but it can show excessive heat. So if you overheat oil, it starts to get real thick. And here's where I'm really impressed. It says right there on that second to last line, or maybe it's due to an additive like Lucas. And I did add Lucas. I didn't tell them that. I didn't think I needed to. They don't give you a lot of room for comment for me to tell them comments. But I did put Lucas in it, and they knew. So there's no fuel or coolant present, and the air and oil filters are working well. So then there is my sample results. They tell you can look up what all these kind of wear metals are, or the elements. They tell you how much magnesium and calcium and phosphorus are left, and zinc, which is good to know kind of what level you have, because those are probably one of the more important things to a diesel engine. Then they tell you the viscosity. Well, mine was 97.4, where it should be between the 68 and 70 range. So again, this oil was thick because of the Lucas, but I'm in Southern California. It doesn't get that hot, so thick oil isn't a huge concern. Now, it's $28 for this test, and again, you just send them a check in that black tube or a credit card number. It's an extra $10 for the TBN, and I didn't do the TBN on this one. So it's a little expensive. It's more expensive than the JG Lubricants, which we'll go over next, but the Bobcat holds about 2.5 gallons of oil and a filter, so oil changes aren't super expensive, but I sleep a little better at night knowing that the engine's not eating itself up. So again, that's Bobcat. We're really doing this about the 7-ton. So here's the results for the 7-ton. JG Lubricants, a whole different kind of company. It seems like they're more based for like fleet companies that have hundreds of trucks. They've got an app you can download. I don't really need all that. They are quite a bit cheaper. It's only $23.50 and another $6.50 for the TBN. I did opt to do the TBN on the 7-ton. So kind of the same thing. As you can tell, I blacked out some of my information. I got a Cat C12. Now, what I don't know is, let's see, the product information. So I don't know the oil manufacturer. I don't know the viscosity, although it's probably 1540. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I sent this in I took the sample on New Year's Eve. I mailed it out, whatever the next business day was. They received it on the 6th, and they did the report on the 7th, and I got it basically on the 7th, I think. It may have been the 8th, but super fast. Basically the day they got it, they started testing it. Same with Blackstone. They were super fast, which is nice. They both email you the report. JG Lubricants keeps it in a file where you create kind of a user name and identity, and you can list all your different vehicles on there. Not something I really need, you know, with only a few vehicles, but okay. So then they do ask for, you know, what kind of information, any miscellaneous information. And what I put is just bought, and they don't leave you a lot of room, so I couldn't type them in this beautiful paragraph. I just put, just brought truck, should oil be changed, any water or coolant. And that was before I realized that it's not, the truck's not losing coolant. But so basically that was my question, right? Is, should I change the oil? And is there any water and coolant in it? And their comments, I'm a little disappointed in. They just kind of use the default. Please provide lubricant information, manufacturer, product name, viscosity, and needed to properly evaluate the lubricant. Hours, miles were not provided for the sample. Well, I didn't have all that, and I told them that, just bought truck. So kind of what I was looking for is an expert to look at this and say, does he have any, are we finding any water or coolant? Anything, you know, does anything jump out at you that that you should be aware of? They listed this as, I don't know, this isn't focusing all that well, but they're listing it as 0, meaning there's no no critical need to do anything. And it's got some iron in it. That's a fair amount of iron. I don't know why this isn't focusing, but not much aluminum, fair amount of copper. So potassium, you know, and you can look all these up. The JG is really good. If you just put your mouse cursor over any one of these, a little pop-up screen comes up and tells you, it'll explain what lithium is, what boron and magnesium and all that sort of thing. So if you look at the zinc, 1300, phosphorus, I'm going backwards, 1200, calcium, 2600. That's on whatever the military used because I've not changed it yet. Look at the huge difference in numbers from Della 400 and you know, these are the good stuff you want in your oil, right? So blow that off. So here, you know, this is like sample number. You can have 100 samples on the same vehicle if you wanted. It tells you, let's see, fuel, dilution, none, no soot. That cat runs really clean. Less than 1/10 of 1%, I think, of water, so there's basically no water. It tells you the viscosity. This is the TBN, the base number, oxidation and nitrate. They don't explain it all really well here, and I could go into hours on explaining all what this stuff is. I'm not an expert on it, but the website has a ton of good information. So that's the engine. I also did the transmission because, again, I'm getting ready to do this big haul, and if the training's going out, I want to know about it. Again, I don't know anything about it, so I put just bought truck. Trans oil I should say is diesel oil. Change needed is what I asked. So all I do know is that military uses the same 1540 in the engine as they do in the transmission. So I'm trying to tell the guy, I don't know much about this, you know, help me. They've listed this as 1 for the kind of the criticalness of oil change needed. And that is because they did type in some actual decent information in here. If you can't read this, I'll read it out loud. Flag data does not indicate immediate need for maintenance action. So he answered my question there. Continue to observe trend and monitor equipment, fluid condition. Copper is a minor level, possible clutch pack and or bushing thrust, plate thrust bearing metal. Copper may be leaching from lube cooler, so that's good to know. The oil cooler in this could be made of copper, and it could be leaching from there. And then again, they give you the default, please provide, you know, missing lubricant information, which I told them I don't have, so I don't know why they would put that. So if this was printed in color, this copper is like it's bold because it's highlighted in like a yellow color if I were to print this color. So it's got some iron in it. 125 copper is what they're saying is high for this, and then it goes into kind of all the other stuff. Again, calcium's super high. Calcium's your like the detergent in the oil. A lot of zinc, a lot of good stuff in it. Again, I just told them the total miles of the truck. The truck's got about 11,000 miles in it. Obviously no fuel dilution or soot, no water. Viscosity is about the same. The oxidation and nitration levels are about the same. So the scary part is if you go on their website and look at what, you know, there's antimony is in here and all this other stuff, but sodium could be caused from coolant that has burnt off, and the water's burnt off, but the coolant stayed. Silicone is one of two things. It's either silicone sealant that's used to seal the transmission, or it's silicates from the air, meaning, you know, like an air filter isn't working well, which is interesting that it's in the transmission, because the transmission is just vented to atmosphere. There's no filter there. So either that's silicone or silicates, and they because they come from the same family, they can't determine it. So kind of just a brief overview of the difference, you know, in this JG Lubricants, who, like I said, I think is a little more geared toward fleets and maybe experts who know what this stuff is. I'm kind of a newbie, and I liked Blackstone's explanation a little bit more. I mean, he included a whole paragraph of things. So make your own determination of which company you use. I think for me, in the future, I'll use Blackstone. It's a little more easy. It's all prepaid shipping. Oh, you know what? That's actually a good point. The JG Lubricants, they just send you a kit and you mail it back to them in your own box. So I had to pay, I did flat rate shipping. And it was like $7. And I sent them 3 samples. I sent them another sample for another car of mine. But so actually, the price probably works out to be the same. I don't need an app. I don't need to check my whole fleet, right? I just need an occasional oil sample done. So for me, I think in the future I'd go with Blackstone. But anyway, good to know that I'm after this trip, I'm gonna go ahead and change the engine and transmission fluid. But I'm glad to know that it's not an immediate need, and it'll live for a little bit longer. So sorry for the incoherent rambling, but hope that information can help someone. Thanks.